So I would like all of you to take a moment, look at someone close to you, and give them a big, cheesy grin. Make some eye contact if you can. Very good, very good. What you've done is you've boosted your endorphins, and your neurotransmitters have started to send some new messages to your brain, and you've given yourself a boost of wellness. In fact, your inner organs were stretched, your face was stretched. It's kind of like giving yourself a detox and a Botox all in one movement. As he mentioned, I was a psychiatric nurse, and now I do stand-up comedy. So you can imagine the times I've heard depression, anxiety, family issues, and that's with my comedy students. But that cheesy grin that you just did, that's just a simple form of laughter. When you connected with that other person, you don't know what religion they were, if they even speak the same language, or maybe they're one of those freaky cat people. You just made a connection with them. There was no prejudgment. Last night, after I was driving home after the rehearsal, I thought I better give this cheesy grin thing a little run, right? So at every stop sign, I would look over and give them a big cheesy grin. You know who loved it? Women, children, and dogs. I think there's some men that drove home like this. But also, I noticed that the bus driver on the 123 route, I think we might be dating, so there is hope. My psych nurse side, my nerd side as I like to call it, loves to learn how the brain works, what constitutes good mental health. And it's often about connection. It's often about taking risks and stepping out of your comfort zone. And it's about relationships. Women are actually very good at this. They love to get together. They love to laugh, they cry, they pee a little bit. It's a wonderful thing. A few of you just squeezed a little bit there, I saw that. When I first started doing comedy, actually, I felt like a little bit of an imposter. I was at a very happy place in my life. I'd only been arrested once. And I was one of these people who grew up with a really happy childhood. I had a great dad. We used to share jokes all the time. Even when I went into psychiatric nursing, he'd write a joke on the end of the envelope, and I'd have to open the envelope to get the punchline. I think his love language was teasing my mom. And then school came, right? Of course, I was the class clown. I loved that, misbehaving, getting the whole class cracking up. So many times, of course, I was sent out in the hall to the principal's office. Often I heard the words, "If you ever think you're going to make a living making people laugh, you're wrong." Well, look at me now. When I was in psychiatric nursing, when I worked in the acute areas, I often noticed that people had lost their ability to laugh. They didn't want to engage with others. They didn't see the value in just smiling even. Sometimes they were at the lowest stages of their life, and they just had lost that ability. And I thought to myself, something's missing here. And for me, it always stayed with me. And when I started to do, as I said, the stand-up comedy on the stage, I thought, well, how's this going to work for me? I'm this happy-go-lucky person. I'm not full of angst and have all these issues. Well, how am I going to work on the stage? But you know what? I just told my truth. I got on the stage, I shared my joy, I shared my weirdness, and it worked. I spent a lot of time talking about my weird friends too, my weird family, and I did have a nice cougar stage, just so you know. But then I thought, I need more comics on the stage. So I decided and encouraged all the unhappy, miserable, challenged people into my comedy classes. And that was wonderful. Now, I will be honest, not everyone has mental health issues in a comedy class, but they do have stories to tell. And when you share your stories, it's important. Who takes a comedy class, do you think? Well, I'll tell you. People who get out of jail, people who hate their job, people who want to announce that they're gay, bi, intersex. They are moms, dads, teachers, gamers, a lot of women that turn 50, drink a lot of wine. They're weed smokers. There's all kinds of people. And in my classes, they range from 8 years old to 92 years old. He's a pain in the ass, but he's 92, and you got to give him some. My first classes were all young dudes. And they would wear their hats backwards, their pants were falling down, and all they wanted to do was talk about their weenies. But I always ask my classes, I always ask them when they come the first night, why do you want to take a stand-up comedy class? And with the exception of the ones that say, I want the Netflix special, they mostly say, I want to connect with other people that make me laugh, and I want to share my stories. When I worked in the institutions in the different areas with my psych nursing, when I was working in the therapy areas, the psychiatrist would often ask, why are you here? And that client would often say, no one cares about me, no one listens to me, and no one knows what I'm going through. I'm not saying stand-up comedy is therapy, but I'm going to tell you there's something that works. And I'm not a wacko. That big cheesy grin that you did, that big cheesy grin, if I'd given you an MRI before you decided to do that cheesy grin, would show your brains are working, most of you. But when after you did that cheesy grin, you started having new motions and new pathways in your brain, and those all got stimulated. That's what gave you that boost. And back to those classes, when I talked about there's different people that come into the classes, and I do believe that there is some therapy within a stand-up comedy class. That fella that just got out of jail and came into the classes, he's still doing comedy. I mean, he talks about 8 balls and he does different things, and but he doesn't for NA and AA and some of the jail systems, which needs to have some comedy. All in Canada, of course, because it was armed robbery. In addition, that woman who at 72 decided after losing her partner that she wanted to talk about being intersexed, she's still doing gigs. She does them on cruise ships, at pride shows, and at all kinds of conferences. One of the young women in my classes that had an eating disorder met a redneck from Alberta. They fell in love. They were just married in August, and now they're doing comedy in Texas. You know what their comedy's like, right? That girl that had cancer, I think she's in the audience tonight, and she's been in remission for 10 years. We do gigs together all the time. Her comedy's changed. She doesn't talk as much about the cancer anymore, but what she likes to say is, if you think cancer was bad, try raising teenagers. It's all a matter of just doing it, right? Telling your stories. And the difference between being in that therapy group and watching the reactions and being in the stand-up comedy classes is that we go on the stage, we tell our story, good or bad, and guess what? You get applause after. It's very rewarding. I'm convinced laughter and laughter wellness tools are a vital part of our mental health system. Laughter often gets a bad rap. It was okay for Patch Adams, right, because he worked with children. But nobody knew the benefits he was giving to the parents and the caregivers and all the other people. Or Norm Cousins, who was a man that was in debilitating pain and chose to go home from the hospital and watch the Marx Brothers videos for 20 minutes a day. For you young people, that's TikTok. But that relieved him. It relieved his pain. Laughter deserves a place in our wellness toolbox. And as you saw Van do earlier, the laughter, the therapeutic laughter where you do your ho, ho, ho and your ha, 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 it's so good for you. Do it naked in front of a mirror and it kills. I learned long ago that everybody has a story, and one of my comics, after completing his class, was so excited to walk out the stage like this. He just chose to wear an open back nightgown, and in his left hand he was carrying a little twisted rope. And he looked at the audience and said, "There was something I was going to do today." Notice how the audience slowed down there. But for John, that was his reality, because every day of his life, he dealt with suicidal ideation. And he wanted you to laugh at that, because when you laughed at that, he shared his story, and you saw the value in having a chance to laugh together. I've learned also not to prejudge people. Years ago, I was doing a gig for some childcare workers, and there was a boardroom of women. And a woman over to the left-hand side was like arms crossed, looking down, not really getting it. And I thought it was all about me, right? She doesn't like me. She's not getting what I'm saying. But at the end of the presentation, I always give them a card, and I say, write down 3 takeaways that you got from today's presentation. And as she was leaving the room, she gave me the card and said, thank you. And I have that card here with me today because I take it to all my corporate gigs to remind me not to prejudge people. I like to share it with you. She said, thank you. Thank you for giving me permission to laugh. I didn't think I'd ever laugh again. My 23-year-old nephew was killed in a car accident 2 weeks ago, and I honestly didn't think I'd laugh again. But you gave me permission to laugh. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to laugh for him, and I'm going to laugh for me. So thank you. You don't need my permission to laugh. Just do it. Give yourself a challenge. Think of a way that every day you can stimulate yourself to share your laughter and engagement with other people. I did a community project just pre-COVID with a group of people, and they were to go out and walk in their community for 20 minutes a day. But before they left the door, they were to load up 50 paper clips in their right-hand pocket. And every time someone said hello to them or engaged with them with a hi or a smile, they would take the paper clip and put it in the left pocket. End of the first week, most clips in that pocket, 7. Week 2, their assignment was to do the initiating. Say hello to people, smile at them, tell them they got a great hat. Whatever you do to engage with those people and see if they react. Least paper clips in that pocket, 27. Most, 47. People want to laugh and engage with you, so do it. Go out there and share your joy, share your interactions with people. You can be like a secret agent of laughter. They're getting a wellness boost, and so are you, and nobody even knows the wiser, right? I know everyone in this audience is going through something, but share your stories. Laugh at your truths. Say hi or smile at everyone, except for drivers sometimes. But every morning when you get up, starting tomorrow morning, look in the mirror. Make eye contact and connect with the most important person in your life and give them a big, cheesy grin. Thank you.